The way in which water affects all work in the economy is actually, well, of course it's priceless, but it is also impossible to calculate. There are at least, I would say in most economies, 70% of productive sectors that rely directly on access to safe, clean water, directly. So at least in most economies, 70%. But of course, there is the other fact that life is impossible without water, and life is also impossible without potable, safe water, which really means that every bit of the society and economy is affected if you don't have that access. Where you deny it, where you force households to do it themselves and you force unpaid workers, particularly women and girl children, to be engaged in this, you're actually not just denying them that access to safe and clean water, but you're reducing the productivity of all these workers. You are actually adding to your social costs. I think one of the big problems in looking at water is that mostly people have just ignored workers. And that's really because there's a sense that it somehow happens. Water is a utility, it just comes to people. That's not really the case. And especially when it's not publicly provided, there are millions of workers who actually have to do the job of procuring, treating and delivering water simply because it's otherwise not available. And we know it's absolutely essential. Of course, it's essential for productive sectors, but it's very essential for everyday life and just to keep society and the economy going at all. So if it is not delivered through formal institutional mechanisms, people have to go out there and do it themselves. And therefore, we have a huge army across the world of unpaid or underpaid people who are engaged in this work of delivering, treating, and ensuring safe water supply. There are several issues involved in changing the conditions of water workers. And these are important not just for the water workers themselves and allowing them to contribute in other ways productively to society and economy, but because doing it this way is actually socially inefficient, because it gives us impure water supply. It gives us fluctuating, inadequate, irregular, and often polluted water supply. And that's very costly for us. It affects the health of the workers. It affects the way in which other sectors can function. So in fact, it's economically inefficient to rely on this vast army of informal workers in water. We really need, first of all, to recognize these workers, to visibilize them, to see where they are, how much time they spend, what kinds of conditions they work under. Then we have to actually change those conditions, and that really means formalizing it. That means getting technology in where it matters, improving the ways in which water is treated and delivered and made accessible to people, and then realizing that you have this huge pool of workers whom you can utilize productively in other ways. There's a huge role for governments. There's priority action in terms of ensuring better technology, better public provision, better democratic access to water and to its safe treatment. But it's also the responsibility of the businesses who are profiting from this subsidized access to water. And I think that message needs to get home to everyone, that we are all losers in society, not just those who are putting in the unpaid labor, but the entire society and economy is losing because of the fact that we are ignoring this vital issue. It has to be right up there on the policy agenda. And the conditions of water workers matter not just for water workers, but for everybody else.